Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today, I want to tell you why races, race, a concept explored in Story Circle, is important for your life. Of course, you may never have heard of races because it's a new project started by me, Skywalker Payne, and produced by Vibrant Velvet Voice Productions, of which I'm the founder. I wanted to talk about races today because my goal is to get everyone involved. I have held 2 racist story circles here in Homer, Alaska, and those circles confirmed my thoughts when the idea came to me to start R.A.C.E.S Circle. And how did that idea come to me? Because I live in Homer, Alaska, which is a 99% white town. And when the protests began in the summer, I was thinking, what can I do? I'm here all alone pretty much. There are very few, count on one hand the Black people in Homer, Alaska. But then my husband started pointing out the Facebook posts from people in Homer, and I saw a need that I could feel. And that was how R.A.C.E.S, race, a concept explored in Story Circle, began. And it began because I had to do something. Because the protests were not new to me. The reasons they were protesting were not new to me. As a Black woman in America, I have experienced decades of the results of systemic and unconscious racism in the United States. And at this time, during the pandemic, which pretty much propelled and was the catalyst for the protests, because it was being documented that Black and brown people were dying in greater numbers than white people. And part of this was because some of them had to go out because they are essential workers, working as CNAs or janitors in schools or hospitals, or as clerks in stores. Lower paying, but considered essential jobs. And unlike some homes where people have many bedrooms and 2 or 3 bathrooms, many Black people don't live in apartments or homes like that. So precautions can be made, but sometimes circumstances prevent people from getting the help and preventing themselves from getting infected. There were many things that were going on at the beginning of the summer, but R.A.C.E.S came to me clearly. After doing 2 circles, I saw there was so much more needed that I could do. Because it's difficult for a person, even when they're telling a story, to admit, to say, yes, I have been I've engaged in unconscious racist thoughts or attitudes. And I use the definition of racism that the author of Stamp created, that racism is using race as a reason to measure people, making them less or better, smarter or dumber. And racist institutions are built on those ideas, because racism is basically built on racist ideas. And there are many ideas, and they go back over almost 600 years, if not longer. And sadly, we hear today the same racist ideas coming from Americans, citizens, and leaders that were said before the Civil War about Black people. But if you do not know any Black history, if you have not been instructed or led to find out how this situation came into being, you wouldn't realize that these thoughts you think are yours are not yours. These thoughts of Black people being more inferior, being criminals, being anything negative were created to support slavery and to maintain it. And now these same ideas are used to continue to create conflict between people, which keeps other people from realizing the bigger problems in this society. And also, it creates this inequality, this concept, this fear that if Black people make advancements, white people can't, which is totally ludicrous. In the whole history of the United States, there has never been any Black advancement that has hurt any white person. Rather, each time Black people have tried to advance themselves, as has become known to many people, towns were bombed. Tulsa, Oklahoma is just one Black town that was destroyed by white people when Black people tried to assert their dignity and economic freedom. So the only way we can get rid of these ideas is to start to look at where they came from in your life. Not systemically, even not historically, but in your own home. And this was what I learned from my first two circles, that many white people heard many racial slurs when they were children, slurs I never heard. And then even as adults, it continued. The slurs are just an example of ideas people were receiving about other people. You grow up hearing slurs, overhearing your parents talk about how Black people are lazy or criminal, or how they need so much help, and you get ideas in your head. And then you go off, and unless you make a concerted effort as a white person to actually get to know Black people or Asian people or brown people or Native Americans, you're in your own world of, oh, everything is good, and there is no racism in America, and Black people are moving forward. We had a Black president. Yet, every week, almost every week, the police are shooting young Black men in the back. And you will say there's no need to talk about race? There's no need for structural and systemic changes? Yes, we need these changes. But we've gone through this before. And it's been a recurring cycle, because until there is a concerted effort by organizations and individuals to get to know other people as people, whether they are a Black ex-convict or an Asian professor or a Hopi leader. Everyone is a person, is a human being in this United States. Whatever their skin color is, it does not matter. According to the Constitution, we are all created equal. Now, today, I will not go into discussions of the flaws in the Constitution and how every group has had to fight for the right to vote and how we still have to fight for that right. What I want to address are these stories that people are carrying around that are creating their racist ideas, their fears, their selfishness, their greed. Because if you look at history, which is not something that's considered relevant to many people, but it's important because the United States, is going in the same circle over and over in terms of race relations. And this is the 21st century, and it stops now. Now, we have the resources to create a compassionate society in this country built upon the dream of equality and the myth in this country that all men are created equal. They totally forgot about women. So what does race, a concept explored in Story Circle, do? The basic R.A.C.E.S Story Circle is a group of no more than 10 people who work in an organization or belong to a club or a staff of an organization or business who want to explore and heal their racial stories. First for yourselves, then for your institution. And the basic R.A.C.E.S Story Circle is a 2-minute live Zoom event with 10 people and myself. This is just the beginning. For some organizations, we may want to go further, or they may want to get other people to help with creating diversity and inclusion and equality. It's not necessary to get other people all the time. Some people specialize in that. But I know that the Story Circle opens people's minds to other people's experiences, and a new level of communication can occur. And also it is a catalyst and motivation to learn more history, to learn more science and sociology and the impacts that Black people and other people of color in this country have made and contributed in all levels. Having done the basic Story Circle 2 groups, as I said earlier, I came to realize there's so much needed. So I offer more than just a story circle. If you're an organization, you're going to need a series, probably, of circles of people who want to change their racial story. There will also be classes. The first class will be starting on October 12th. And it is going to be an examination of Stamped from the Beginning, which is a book, a historic book, looking at how racist ideas were developed, maintained, and continue in the United States. And this course also will offer some things we can do to change this pattern. So there's the basic circle, there's a series for organizations, there's consulting, which I don't have to talk about much now, and then finally, there's individual services. Excuse me. Individual services for people who may feel traumatized or embarrassed about their racial stories. Now, racist circles are not just for white people. They can be an all-white group, a mixed group, or an all-Black group, or an all-Native American group, all Asian group, but no more than 10 people. Because every group of us, we all have our racial stories that need healing. We all do. Many Black people have bought into the dominant lies about Black people. And this goes all the way back to before the Civil War. Because there have always been free black people in the United States, contrary to most people's knowledge. And there have been black people who have always had some money and some influence. And there have always been black people who have so wanted to be American that they have denied themselves their own identity. And this still continues in varying in different degrees. Because we still set a standard of beauty and professionalism that is based upon white European standards. Not the standards of Africans, not the standards of Asians or other people. And from hair to my hair, which I was recruited for the hospital here, offered many things. And then when I got there, sat in the orientation meeting, and they were saying that people with dreadlocks weren't supposed to work there. But no one ever said anything to me personally. Lasted there 6 months. So I know what it is to be black in America, even though I'm light-skinned. And some black, darker black people think I've had it easy. Oh, no. Look at the history. Every light-skinned black woman in this country who's had talent and was assertive or was in politics has had a hard road to hoe. And some have just been pushed out because we bring up that guilt that is inbred in white America of 200 to 400 years of black women being raped by the men who own them and their wives participating in the act by their acquiescence, by their silent approval. And we don't need to talk about all the things that were done to their families and how badly some women were treated by the wives. There's so many deep, deep stories we have to tell and look at and share and stop pretending everything is okay. Of course, it's difficult when we live in a world in a time when people lie all the time. But I'm here. And I was in my 20s in Greenville, South Carolina. And this was a long time ago. And we had gathered in the Capitol thousands of black people in South Carolina to protest the murder of black men by the state's highway patrol. And we were gathered, and I stood up on that podium and looked up, and there were men in uniforms with rifles standing on roofs all around us. And I didn't feel afraid. I was in my 20s, and I knew that we were just and our cause was just. And I stood up there and said, if I was a revolutionary, I would act, and my actions would lead others to change. And that's what I believed. But then I said, if I was a revolutionary, because I knew I was a writer and a poet and an artist. And I used my work trying to move people to justice and equality and truth. But we see, here it is now, and that was over 40 years ago. The same problems continue. So, when you know your life's work and you know what you're here for, and this is what I'm here for, however long I have left, is to help educate and open people's hearts to this concept of race and where these racist ideas came from. And how am I going to do this? And why is this important to you who's listening? Whether you're black or white or Asian, whatever, Native American, whether you're old or young. This is important to you because now, this century, the old paradigms are falling. And you can be on the forefront of positive change by participating with R.A.C.E.S. You can learn Black history in an easy way and fun way. You can heal your racial stories and learn in that process and maybe gain some understanding of why white people are so afraid of us, or why they admit they're actually jealous because we can move. Not knowing we can teach you how to do that. And many have learned that. Many white people have learned how to dance. And this whole American culture is infused with the work, the contributions, the music, the melodies of people of color, from Black people to the Native Americans. But we're still denied even that. Because you see, too many white people will claim to have taken on what's traditional to a group of people. And then they make lots of money off of it. This isn't what R.A.C.E.S. It's not it's not a get-rich way for me. It's a way to connect with people, to open our hearts, to learn our stories, to understand racist ideas, to understand that race is a concept, and then to come up with ways to enable people to know each other. If you're white, come up with ways so that your children will know other Black children and other children from different races and cultures. Because only places that happens are in these small towns that don't encourage people of color to come. So why don't you? Don't leave your child being raised and having to go to college before she meets a person of color. And then they still don't know how to act. And they feel funny. And they don't have to, because we're just like you, Americans. So that's why it's important to you, because the world is changing, America's changing. America is quickly becoming a multiracial, multicultural country. And despite the efforts to prevent this, the cream rises to the top. The good rises to the top. People with compassion and concern for others. So, how can you help this effort of R.A.C.E.S, a concept explored in story? 3 ways. First, I'm asking if you know any organizations, if you belong to any organizations or clubs or businesses that would be perfect for a R.A.C.E.S circle, please share the link below or send me their information. If you have an organization and you'd like a R.A.C.E.S story circle, please visit this page. You'll get much more information about what's offered, and you can sign up for a strategy call. Finally, you can subscribe to R.A.C.E.S. And what do you get for a subscription? This subscription will provide you monthly with information, maybe sometimes even entertainment, visual, written, audio on a dedicated site. And with your initial $25 subscription, that will be a subscription for 2 years. If you give a $50 angel investor donation investment subscription, that's a lifetime subscription plus discounts on other classes and events. And if you're kind of short on cash, as many people may be these days, you can pay what you can based on the value received. That's what I wanted to share with you today about races. Race, a concept explored in Story Circle. I am a storyteller. I have seen how storytelling opens hearts, opens doors to communication, creates bridges to understanding, gives confidence to the shy, and can help people understand and heal their racial stories and understand where and how racist ideas developed and how they can be removed. Thank you for listening. I'm using the new Facebook Live, which doesn't allow me to know if there's anyone here. So I just saw they have comment moderation, which I'm going to see if that will allow me to see anything. Slow follower. I'm going to put a discussion and see what happens. Excuse me. Well, thank you for listening. I can't tell if there's anyone here, anyone who has come today. Thank you. I couldn't say hi because I can't see any comments. I will be sharing the links below for the R.A.C.E.S webpage where you can subscribe and get more information on what R.A.C.E.S offers you. That this is the major challenge for the United States. Because when you look at every problem, you will find that many of these things were created to control Black people, such as the repeating guns, which were manufactured after one of the slave revolts, and even police, totally tied to controlling Black people. And why do we need to be controlled more than anyone else? There is no need other than these racist ideas that were cultivated over time by people who had their own vested interests, and that primary overwhelming interest was money. Thank you all for listening. If you see this and when you listen to this, and if you've gotten all the way down here to the end, please share and say #replay so that I know you were here. This didn't give me, they used to allow you to share it on other places, but Facebook is always changing, and so is life. Wherever you are in the world, remember, smile, breathe deeply, and be grateful.